following is a transcript between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am, originally recorded on September 9th, 2020, under the constellation Virgo in the mental week, examining through the root chakra. Me. The energy that I produce from my sacrum, I get the basis of all of my potentials to act. Is that energy, then, what drives me to action? I am. Action is the ability to perform an act. Act comes from the Greek concept ego, which means guide, and agon, which means gather. Basically, the meaning is to gather everything I have, to direct it, to drive it towards a destination. For this reason, the Latin word actum refers to putting something in motion. The energy that is received and anchored in the heart is processed and assimilated in the plexus. To deliver that energy to the sacrum, which will produce what is sought, and all that is generated is taken into this new destination outside through giving, letting go, surrender, serve, and it does so through action, something that is related to the root chakra. Me. It would be like expressing or a manifestation of what is generated inside of me with the energy received and assimilated by my being. I am. Exactly. Me. How could this be seen in our lives through an example? I am. Well, we could see it with what you're doing day to day. Every morning you wake up and you set the intention to give some of your energy to a planetary service by going to the pyramid. You enter, you go up, you do your meditation, and then expand the concept of the day to the entire network. In this way, you receive the energy of the pyramid and amplify your energy field, connecting you with me, your higher self. So, when you come back, you sit down and you write down our conversations. This is a process of how you decode the received energy, translating it into your language, assimilating it, and making it a part of you. So, you generate something new, which is this conversation. You publish it for yourself, although others will read it, and throughout the day you recognize what you have created, you reread it. It is your product, which you've created from the energies received in the morning. And then you take this information and you put it into action. The daily lineups in which you deliver to thousands of people's lives is what you have assimilated. Their response, the love and gratitude, is the energy that you receive that night, so that the next day you can gather strength again to carry out the action of going to the pyramid. It is a cycle. Me, I understand, although sometimes I feel like I do it more eagerly than others. Why is that? I am, because action is an undulating energy that vibrates like the waves of the sea. It is not a constant. You have the inertia you need in the moment of rest. Dream and wake up. The voltage drop and the voltage rise are necessary because light moves in a wave of positive and negative frequencies, short and long. This is what gives movement and momentum. Nothing moves in a constant ascending line, increasing its rise or acceleration. The more you go up, the slower you will go because you'll need much more strength. Therefore, you will need to go down to go back up the hill. Me. It looks like a wave graph in which there is an elevation in height and a depression in descent to repeat the circuit over and over again. Just as on an emotional plane, we call that elevation euphoria and happiness, and on the descent, we call it depression and sadness. Do these things need to repeat too? I am. Yes. Just as for the heart, the energy circuit is to give and receive horizontally with the environment. In the base center, the energy circuit is ascending and descending, relating to euphoria and depression. The more euphoria, the more depression. The more happiness, the more sadness. And this is an inevitable cycle because, as I said, the energy of light moves in waves and spirals so that the object or energy can move forward. The starting force and the fall of the descent are needed, since the latter is what gives us the momentum and speed to take the curve of the hike and reach the top. This is why every great success in your life is directly related to a preceding crisis or failure. Crises are the keys to success. Falls are the only thing that make you recognize standing up. Me. In other words, feeling bad, tired, weak, sad, depressed is not something that we should avoid in life, but knowing how to use it. I am. In your culture, you have an overvaluation of what it means to be cheerful and to live happily. The incessant search for happiness makes you flee from grief and pain and anguish, denying them, taking them as evil from which you have to escape. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that you will never be able to escape from this circuit as long as you are living beings. But I will tell you that there are many ways to experience those curves. Me, which ones? Let's go to the logical and simple. It takes a long wave of vibration, like the one that you see in the following image. The red line is the spectrum of light. The frequency line, hertz, shows the colors that are perceived based on the speed at which the wave vibrates. That is, how often its ascents and descents are repeated. The larger the object, the slower the frequency it emits, the lower the frequency. And the smaller the object, the shorter the frequency, the higher frequency. Its vibration is much faster, and ascends and descends are more and more fast. The higher the vibration, the higher the frequency, the faster and the more imperceptible. If you look at the red word visible on the graph, you will see that the straight below is the colors of the rainbow in a short section of wavelength. That refers to what humans can see and perceive. All of the others are impossible to see. But something else, the faster it vibrates, like an atomic nucleus at the end of a graph, it can happen that the atomic structure breaks, dissolving it, thus generating nuclear fusion. This generates the famous nuclear energy, which is so good for creating energy and so bad for living organisms because it breaks their harmony. Now, as you will see, life is a constant wave of energy with ups and downs at different frequencies. You can also compare it to the heartbeat of the reader where you see the pulse on the graph. The ups and downs of the graph will indicate the pulse of the heart expanding and contracting. And if only it contracts or only expands, it's called an infraction. And all of the graph in which you will only see a straight line is called death. Me. It was clear, and what would this look like in our lives? I am. Now imagine that each convex rise in the line is happiness and the concave curves are depression. The more frequency there is between these spaces, like in the beginning of the image line, the process will be slow and invisible. It will also not be able to relate to where my depression comes from or why I feel the way I feel, because there is a long stretch of time to go up and down. Toward the middle of the graph, we can see that there is a certain harmony in each attitude and action. I can identify the moments of decline. I know what things affect me on a daily basis and what makes me happy and what makes me sad. Toward the end of the line, we can interpret that your search for happiness is exaggerated, always trying to be on top through euphoria more than joy, shortening deadlines, frequencies, and between the ups and downs, deepening them more and more, taking you to a state of euphoria or depression so fast that both seem to be two parallel and constant lines. This is toxic. It is nuclear fusion. It is destroying life. In the denial of one of the two forces, you end up empowering it to destroy your reality, giving it its own identity. This is how you fall into depression or euphoria. You need drugs to feed them because you can no longer generate your own energy to sustain them. Me. So I must admit that both are ones that have helped me move forward, not just one, but both. Both drive me like the beating of my heart. How do I recognize them? I am. The convex curves, the top of the wave, are called strengths, and in the concave ones, the depressions of the wave are called weaknesses. In the same way that the usefulness in giving from the heart is what I can give to others of myself, and the uselessness in my heart is what I allow myself to receive from others to allow the correct functioning of the circuit. The fact of understanding the strengths and weaknesses in my actions allows me to identify the energy circuit of the root. Both make up your attributes. Me. What is the difference between an attribute and a quality? I am. A quality is a property that is considered proper, natural, and original to the individual. An attribute is something that is acquired by the experience and assimilation of energy in your process of evolution and personal growth. Just as there are negative and positive qualities, there are also positive and negative attributes, skills that can be considered acquired through experience that harm oneself or others, and knowing how to activate them correctly have the expected effect. Me. Like what, for example? I am. Being a dictator is an attribute, even if you're not the best. Being a murderer is an attribute because he manages to fulfill his mission in a good way, like the dictator, although there are distortions. Me. And what are strengths? I am. It is what you recognize in yourself, which you feel strong and present in yourself when you're acting. The pulse you have to activate. They are the attributes that you have achieved throughout your life that make you act with total presence and integrity. Me. On my list, I noted that one of my strengths, for example, is not being afraid and allowing myself to cry in front of others without hiding what I feel. I am. As much as society interprets crying as a weakness, sometimes it's stronger to allow you to express what you feel than the ones who hide what happens to you for the fear of breaking. There, appearing strong when feeling bad is not a strength, but a weakness. Me. And what are the weaknesses? I am. These are those attributes that define you when it comes to acting, but that weaken your personal stability. Me. For example, I wrote down being self-critical, being lazy, being naive, doing what others want so that they don't get angry, among others. I am. If instead of fighting against them, thinking that having fallen is like having failed in life, you can use these moments as a process of introspection, of self-analysis, knowing consciously that it is time that you must take for yourself of inaction prior to action. Then you will save the energy you use in the battle against the fall and use it to clean and jerk that will propel you to the top. Me. The goal of life is not to find happiness then. I am. Of course not. The goal of life is in harmony. Free yourself from the cultural, magical, and poetic romanticism that keeps people suffering all year long to earn 2 weeks of vacation euphoria, or that longing to strive to have the minutes of glory and success, the euphoria of what has been achieved. That is not life. Life is harmony. It is day to day. It is step by step. It is ups and downs. Find the correct frequency in your wavelength, and you will find stability where your attributes of strength and weaknesses both will be your steps forward, acting on the path of life. Me. I recognize my weaknesses. I am. And so you will make the leap to your strengths. My